Most retirement advice starts with a $4 million client. And if you've ever watched one of those videos and thought, "That's not me," you're right. It isn't you. But here's the thing. The math still works at $1 million, and it works pretty well, as long as you know the two things most guides skip. A $1 million portfolio using the 4% rule gives you $40,000 in year one. Add the average Social Security benefit of $1,907 a month. That's $22,884 a year. And your combined income is about $62,884. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the average household age 65 and older spends around $52,000 a year. That means a $1 million retiree with average Social Security has a $10,000 buffer right out of the gate. So why do you feel like it's not enough? Because almost every video, article, and retirement calculator was built around someone else's number, someone with 2 to 4 times what you have. You've been given advice that wasn't designed for you, and it's been making you more anxious than you need to be. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact 3 things that determine whether a $1 million portfolio, or anywhere in the $500,000 to $1,500,000 range, actually holds up. Social Security timing, behavioral psychology, and what happens to your spouse if you go first. Most guides cover one of those. This video covers all 3. If you're in that 95% of Americans saving with a realistic number rather than a fantasy number, tap subscribe right now so you don't miss the rest of this plan. But before we get to the system, we need to clear up one myth that's keeping millions of people from even starting the math. Let me give you the actual math first, because the rest of this video only makes sense once you've seen it clearly. A $1 million portfolio at 4% withdrawal gives you $40,000 in year one. The average Social Security benefit in 2026 is $1,907 a month. That's $22,884 a year. Add those together, and you get $62,884. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that the average household age 65 and older spends about $52,000 a year. That leaves you with a $10,000 surplus in year one, not scraping by, not cutting corners, a real cushion. Now, before you say my spending is higher than that, we'll get to adjustments. The point right now is that the framework holds. The 4% rule, originally developed by financial planner William Bengen in 1994, has been tested against 30-year retirement periods across multiple market cycles. Fidelity's most recent research cites a 96% survival rate over those 30 years. That's not a guarantee, but it's one of the most battle-tested frameworks in personal finance, and it scales linearly. A $600,000 portfolio at 4% gives you $24,000 a year. A $1,400,000 portfolio gives you $56,000. The math is the same. The mechanics are the same. I used to think you needed at least $2 million to retire comfortably. Then I ran the actual numbers for my own parents. They had about $900,000, and I realized that the 4% rule combined with Social Security gave them a perfectly livable income. I had the wrong mental picture of what enough looks like, and I suspect a lot of people watching this do too. So why does the financial media keep using $4 million examples? Because it makes for a dramatic story. But there's something more structural happening underneath that. Advisors who charge fees based on a percentage of assets under management have a direct financial interest. in making you feel like your number is too small. The larger your balance, the higher their fee. That's not a conspiracy, it's just an incentive structure. And when your advisor says you need more, it's worth asking who benefits from that answer. The penalty for believing you need more than you do isn't just anxiety. It's years. It's staying in a job longer than you need to. Spending down your health and time to protect a balance that was already large enough. Now here's the catch the math alone can't solve. When you claim Social Security changes everything. Claim at 62 and that $22,884 a year drops to roughly $16,000. Delay to 70 and it climbs to about $30,000. That's a $14,000 annual swing for life. And depending on which path you take, it could be the difference between your portfolio surviving a bad market or not. Most people think of Social Security timing as a personal question. When do you want to start collecting? But it's actually a portfolio question. The age you claim determines how much you have to pull from your savings during the early years of retirement, and that early withdrawal rate is what makes or breaks a 30-year plan. Here's how to think through it in 3 steps. First, figure out your essential spending minus any pension or other guaranteed income you already have. For most people in the $500,000 to $1,500,000 range, there's no pension, so Social Security is the only guaranteed floor. That makes timing it correctly more important, not less. Second, run 2 numbers. If you claim Social Security at 62, what does your portfolio need to cover each year? If you delay to 70, how much do you draw down in those 8 years? And what does your portfolio look like when you finally flip that switch? Third, factor in your health, honestly. If you have serious chronic conditions, early claiming can make sense. If you're in good health, the numbers usually favor waiting. Let me show you why the math is so different between those 2 paths. Say you have $1 million and your essential spending is $52,000 a year. If you claim Social Security at 62, you receive about $16,000 a year. Your portfolio has to cover the other $36,000. Over 8 years, with conservative assumptions, 4% nominal growth, and sequence of returns risk priced in, your portfolio ends up around $712,000 by the time you're 70. If you delay to 70, your Social Security jumps to about $30,000 a year. That's what 8 years of delayed retirement credits at 8% per year does, and the Social Security Administration confirms the benefit reaches 124% of your primary insurance amount at age 70 for anyone born in 1960 or later. During those 8 years of waiting, you only need $22,000 a year from your portfolio. Using the same conservative growth assumptions, your portfolio comes out around $824,000 at age 70. That's $112,000 more, plus a permanently higher monthly income for the rest of your life. But the number that matters most isn't the portfolio balance. It's what happens when markets go wrong in year 1 or 2 of retirement. Sequence of returns risk is real. If your portfolio drops 20% in the first year of retirement, and you're withdrawing $36,000 a year on top of that, you're locking in losses and drawing down a smaller base, which makes recovery much harder. Vanguard's research shows that retirees without a cash buffer who claimed Social Security early face roughly a 50% probability of portfolio depletion by age 85. Those who delayed to 70 and held 2 years of spending in cash had about a 92% probability of their portfolio surviving 30 years. My own father claimed at 62 because he was afraid he'd die early and never see the money. He's 84 now. He's been living on a permanently reduced benefit for over 2 decades. And after my mother lost her own income a few years ago, the difference in that monthly check became something she feels every single month. I've watched that situation up close. I'm not saying delaying is always right. I'm saying the stakes are higher than most people realize when they make that call. Even with perfect Social Security timing, though, most retirees still trip on something the spreadsheet can't capture. They can't bring themselves to actually spend the money. There's a pattern I've seen repeat itself across dozens of retirees, and it's never in the financial plan. They have the money. The math works, and they still can't spend it. They eat at home instead of going out because it feels wasteful. They skip the trip they've talked about for 20 years. They mow the lawn themselves at 68 because paying someone feels like a luxury, and the portfolio just sits there, barely touched, growing slightly while the years go by. This isn't a discipline problem. It's a wiring problem. After 35 or 40 years of building the habit of saving, the act of withdrawal feels like a violation. Every time you pull money out, some part of your brain registers it as a loss. Behavioral economists call this loss aversion. And it doesn't switch off just because you crossed the retirement finish line. There's also what I'd call identity lock-in. For most people who saved well, being a saver is core to who they are. Spending down an account feels like becoming a different, less responsible version of yourself. That's not rational, but it's real. If you've been frugal your whole life, you're not broken. That discipline got you here. But the rules change in retirement. The penalty isn't overspending anymore. It's underliving. And that's a cost that doesn't show up in any portfolio report. Morningstar published research in 2024 showing that retirees who had a systematic spending floor, even a simple rule about minimum withdrawals, reported 30% higher life satisfaction than those who continued to treat spending as something to minimize. The difference wasn't the amount they spent. It was having permission to spend it. Here's a simple rule that can help. Take your portfolio value and divide it by your remaining life expectancy in years. For a 65-year-old with $1 million and a 30-year horizon, that's roughly $33,000 a year, about 3.3%. Set that as your minimum annual withdrawal and automate a monthly transfer to your checking account. Call it what it is: money you earned, money you saved, money that is supposed to be spent on your life now. If you've ever felt guilty taking money out of a retirement account you built over 40 years, this channel is for you. Hit subscribe so you get the next video on exactly how to set that spending floor and stop treating your own money like it belongs to someone else. The last piece is one most retirement videos skip entirely. What happens to your spouse if you go first? A plan that works perfectly for you can become a tax nightmare for them if you haven't set it up right. A friend of mine retired a few years ago with his wife. He had done everything right. Diversified portfolio, around $1,200,000 in savings, Social Security timed well. His wife had never once logged into the Vanguard account. She trusted him to handle it, and he was good at it, so it worked fine while he was alive. When he passed away suddenly last year, she had no idea how to generate income from what they had built. It took her 6 months to figure out her own cash flow. 6 months of panic, grief, and financial confusion at the worst possible time. They had plenty of money. That wasn't the problem. This section is about making sure that situation never happens in your household. There are 5 things worth doing before one spouse is no longer in the picture. First, audit your beneficiary forms. Retirement accounts, life insurance policies, and payable on death bank accounts all pass outside your will, meaning whatever name is on those forms is who gets the money, regardless of what your will says. Review and update those within the first 12 months of retirement. Many people still have an ex-spouse or a deceased parent listed. It's more common than you'd think. Second, simplify. If you have accounts scattered across 5 different institutions, the surviving spouse will need to deal with 5 different customer service lines, 5 different login systems, and 5 different sets of paperwork. Consolidate to 2 or 3 providers while you're both healthy and able to manage it together. Third, write a 1-page letter of instruction. List every account, every insurance policy, your preferred withdrawal order, and who to call. This is not a legal document. It's a practical one. It saves the person you love most from having to piece things together while they're in grief. Fourth, the higher earner in the household should delay Social Security to 70 whenever health allows. The reason is survivor benefits. When one spouse dies, the surviving spouse keeps only the larger of the 2 benefits. The lower one stops. If the higher earner claimed early and is receiving a permanently reduced amount, that's the number the survivor is stuck with for the rest of their life. Fifth, consider Roth conversions before the first spouse dies. Here's why the tax math matters. A surviving spouse files taxes as a single filer. Single filer tax brackets are narrower than married filing jointly. If she inherits a $500,000 traditional IRA and has to withdraw the entire balance within 10 years, which is now required under the Secure Act for most non-spouse beneficiaries, she doesn't qualify for that rule, but a surviving spouse does have more options. Even so, a large traditional IRA is a tax liability sitting in the account. If the couple converts $50,000 a year over 5 years before the first spouse passes, taxed at the 12% married filing jointly bracket, the tax bill is around $30,000. If she withdraws that same money as a single filer at the 22% bracket later, the bill on that $250,000 alone climbs past $50,000. The difference is real money. And for 2026, the 22% single bracket starts at $50,400. It doesn't take a large IRA distribution to cross that line. Also worth knowing, IRMA thresholds for Medicare in 2026 kick in at $109,000 for a single filer. A large traditional IRA distribution can push a surviving spouse into a higher Medicare premium bracket without any warning. A Roth conversion strategy done in advance, while the couple is still married and in the lower joint brackets, reduces that risk significantly. So you've got the Social Security timing, the spending permission, and the spouse backup. Now let's bring it all together in one checklist. Let's put the whole thing together. 1. Kill the $4 million myth. A $1 million portfolio plus average Social Security generates more than $62,000 a year, enough to cover the average retiree's spending with room to spare. The advice built around $4 million was never built for you. 2. Get your Social Security timing right. Claim at 62 and your portfolio carries $36,000 in annual load. Delay to 70 and it carries $22,000. That $14,000 difference doesn't just affect your monthly income. It determines how your portfolio behaves when markets go against you in the first few years. 3. Give yourself permission to spend. Retirement is the payoff, not just another phase of saving. Set a minimum annual withdrawal, something around 3.3% for a 30-year horizon. Automate it, and actually use it. The research shows it doesn't just improve your finances, it improves your life satisfaction. 4. Protect your spouse. Update your beneficiary forms before the year is out. Consolidate accounts. Write the one-page letter. Have the Roth conversion conversation before you need it, not after. None of this requires a $4 million portfolio. None of it requires a perfect investment track record. It requires knowing the right order of operations and having the patience to follow through. If this video gave you even one thing you can act on this week, subscribe. I make weekly videos for real Americans retiring with real numbers. You're closer than you think.